In the heart of a vast and remote forest, there lay a small, secluded village named Duskwood. The villagers lived simple, humble lives, bound by age-old traditions and the ever-present whispers of the ancient woods that surrounded them. Each evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a thick, ominous fog would roll in, creeping through the trees and enveloping the village in an eerie shroud. With the fog came an unsettling sense of dread, for it carried the tales of the Skin Walker, a malevolent being of unspeakable horror. This creature had the terrifying ability to take the form of any creature, human or animal, to instill fear and terror in the hearts of the villagers. The air grew heavy with tension, and the once peaceful village of Duskwood would brace itself for another night under the shadow of this ancient, malevolent presence. Young Emily, an inquisitive girl of 13, had grown up surrounded by tales of the mysterious and the unknown. Her delicate features were framed by long, wavy brown hair that flowed down her back, and her wide eyes sparkled with curiosity and wonder. Emily's grandmother, an elderly woman with a voice full of wisdom and caution, often sat by the fireplace, spinning stories that sent shivers down Emily's spine. One of her grandmother's most repeated warnings was, never stray into the woods alone at night. The Skin Walker roams there, seeking its next victim. This malevolent being, capable of taking the form of any creature, be it human or animal, was said to instill terror in the hearts of those who dared to venture into its domain. Despite these chilling tales and stern warnings, Emily's adventurous spirit and unquenchable curiosity often got the better of her. She was irresistibly drawn to the forest's edge, a place where the dense, ancient trees stood like silent sentinels, their gnarled branches whispering secrets of the past. The forest was both beautiful and foreboding, a world of shadows and light that beckoned her to explore its hidden depths. Emily would stand at the boundary between her familiar village and the mysterious woods, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. She felt a strange, compelling pull towards the darkness beyond, a yearning to uncover the secrets that lay hidden within. The warnings of her grandmother echoed in her mind, but they were often overshadowed by her thirst for adventure and discovery. One evening, as the golden hues of sunset bathed the landscape, young Emily was playing near the edge of the forest. Her long, wavy brown hair glinted in the fading light, and her wide, curious eyes took in every detail of her surroundings. She wore a simple yet charming dress, its bodice laced up the front and the sleeves rolled up to her elbows, a testament to her readiness for adventure. As she frolicked near the towering, ancient trees, she suddenly became aware of an eerie silence settling over the area. The usual symphony of birds chirping and critters rustling in the underbrush had vanished, replaced by an unsettling stillness that seemed to hang heavy in the air. The forest, usually alive with sound and movement, now seemed to hold its breath, as if anticipating something ominous. Emily's heart began to beat a little faster, a sense of unease creeping into her playful mood. Her gaze darted around, searching for the source of the silence. Just then, a raven, as black as the night itself, swooped down and landed nearby. Its feathers gleamed with an unnatural sheen, and its eyes, dark and piercing, seemed to reflect an intelligence that was far beyond that of an ordinary bird. The raven fixed its gaze on Emily, and she felt a shiver run down her spine, as if the creature was peering into her very soul. It cawed thrice, each call echoing through the stillness like a harbinger of doom. The sound was chilling, resonating with a sense of foreboding that made her blood run cold. Without warning, the raven took flight again, its wings flapping silently as it disappeared into the dense, shadowy woods. Emily stood frozen for a moment, her mind racing with a mix of fear and curiosity. The strange encounter left her feeling both terrified and inexplicably drawn to the dark depths of the forest. The long, eerie shadows cast by the setting sun seemed to beckon her, whispering secrets that lay hidden within the ancient trees, waiting to be uncovered. As the unsettling feeling of being watched grew stronger, Emily's sense of dread intensified. She quickened her pace, her simple dress rustling with each hurried step. The dress, with its laced bodice and rolled-up sleeves, symbolized her readiness for adventure, but now it seemed out of place in the oppressive atmosphere that surrounded her. Her heart raced, and her breath came in short, panic bursts as she hurried back home, desperate to escape the unseen eyes that she felt were following her every move. That night, the unease did not leave her. Instead, it followed her into her dreams, transforming her sleep into a vivid, nightmarish landscape. She found herself wandering through a forest even darker and more twisted than the one she knew. The trees were grotesque, their gnarled branches reaching out like the limbs of ancient monsters. A thick, oppressive fog clung to the ground, swirling around her legs and making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. Shadows seemed to move with a life of their own, flickering at the edges of her vision, whispering threats and promises of doom. In the midst of this terrifying scene, a shadowy figure emerged. It was indistinct, its form shifting and flickering like a dark flame, but its presence was undeniably menacing. It followed her every step, a silent and relentless stalker that filled her with a profound and paralyzing dread. No matter how fast she ran or how desperately she tried to hide, the figure was always there, just behind her, a constant reminder of the terror that now dominated her life. Emily woke with a start, her body drenched in a cold sweat. Her heart pounded in her chest, and her breath came in shallow, panicked gasps. The vivid image of the shadowy figure was burned into her mind, an indelible mark that refused to fade. She lay in bed, trembling uncontrollably, her once bright and curious eyes now filled with fear and uncertainty. The horror of the dream lingered, casting a dark shadow over her thoughts and deepening the mystery of the malevolent presence that seemed to stalk her from the depths of the ancient forest. Every creak of the house, every rustle of the wind outside, made her jump, as if the shadowy figure might materialize at any moment, ready to claim her as its next victim. Days turned into a tense blur as the village of Duskwood buzzed with unsettling rumors. Whispers of missing livestock and strange, shadowy sightings in the forest spread like wildfire, casting a pall of fear over the once peaceful hamlet. The villagers, usually preoccupied with their simple, daily lives, now exchanged anxious glances and hushed conversations, their collective unease growing with each passing day. Amidst this atmosphere of dread, Emily's father, a rugged and determined hunter with years of experience etched into his weathered face, resolved to uncover the truth behind the mysterious happenings. His keen eyes, hardened by countless hunts, now burned with a fierce determination to protect his family and his community from the unknown threat lurking in the dark woods. One fateful night, as the full moon cast an eerie, silvery glow over the village, he made his decision. The sky was clear, and the pale moonlight bathed everything in an otherworldly light, casting long, ominous shadows. Emily watched her father prepare, her heart pounding in her chest. She stood in the doorway, her wide, expressive eyes filled with a mix of admiration and fear, her long, wavy brown hair cascading over her shoulders. Her father, gripping his rifle with steady hands, looked every bit the fearless protector. His expression was a blend of resolve and concern as he checked his weapon one last time. The rifle's cold metal gleamed in the moonlight, a stark contrast to the warmth of their home behind him. Emily's mother, standing beside her, wore a worried expression, her arms gently wrapped around her daughter in a comforting embrace. With a final, reassuring glance at his family, Emily's father stepped into the shadowy forest. The trees, ancient and towering, seemed to close in around him, their gnarled branches creating a twisted canopy that swallowed him whole. The thick underbrush rustled softly as he ventured deeper into the darkness, his figure soon disappearing from sight. The oppressive silence of the night deepened as Emily and her mother watched him go. The familiar sounds of nocturnal animals were conspicuously absent, replaced by an eerie stillness that made the hairs on the back of Emily's neck stand on end. The warm glow of their cabin's interior cast a small pool of light that seemed feeble against the vast, looming darkness of the forest. As the door closed with a heavy thud, Emily and her mother were left alone, their hearts weighed down with a mix of fear and hope. The night seemed to stretch endlessly before them, the uncertainty of what lay ahead casting a long, dark shadow over their thoughts. The village, now shrouded in an unsettling quiet, felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for the dawn to bring answers, or more terror. As the night deepened, Emily sat by the window, her wide, curious eyes scanning the fog-laden darkness outside, waiting anxiously for her father's return. The thickening fog seemed almost alive, its tendrils swirling and shifting, obscuring the familiar shapes of the village and turning the world outside into a shadowy, dreamlike landscape. Through this dense veil of fog, Emily's heart leapt when she saw a figure emerging from the murk. At first, her hope surged, believing it to be her father returning from the forest. She pressed her face closer to the cold glass, her breath fogging up the window as she strained to make out more details. But as the figure moved closer, a deep sense of unease began to settle over her. The figure's movements were disturbingly fluid and unnaturally graceful, lacking the familiar, steady gait of her father. It seemed to glide rather than walk, its form almost ethereal. The eyes, faintly glowing in the darkness, cast an eerie, otherworldly light that sent a chill down Emily's spine. "Emily, come away! It's not safe," her mother said urgently, pulling her away from the window. But Emily was transfixed, her heart pounding in her chest, unable to tear her gaze from the approaching figure. The closer it came, the more wrong it seemed. Its silhouette, once resembling a human form, now appeared distorted and twisted, as if it was something not quite of this world trying to mimic a human shape. The figure stopped at the edge of their yard, standing motionless for a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity. Emily's breath caught in her throat as a horrifying realization dawned upon her. Before her eyes, the figure began to shift forms, its shape warping and contorting in a grotesque display. It transformed from what appeared to be a man into a monstrous, demon-like creature, its skin mottled and sickly, with wings that spread wide, torn and tattered. The creature's eyes burned with an infernal fire, and its mouth, filled with rows of jagged, blood-stained teeth, twisted into a malevolent grin. Emily's terror was complete, her mind racing as she struggled to comprehend the nightmare unfolding before her. Her mother's grip tightened, pulling her away from the window, but the image of the monstrous being was seared into her mind, a haunting vision that would stay with her forever. Terrified, Emily and her mother quickly barricaded themselves inside their old, wooden house. They pushed heavy furniture against the doors and windows, their movements frantic and desperate as the eerie silence outside pressed in on them. The house, normally a place of warmth and safety, now felt like a fragile sanctuary against the malevolent force lurking in the fog. Her mother lit several candles, their small flames flickering uncertainly in the oppressive darkness. The soft, wavering light cast long, eerie shadows on the walls, transforming the familiar interior into a place of dread and foreboding. The wooden beams and old wallpaper seemed to loom menacingly in the candlelight, creating a claustrophobic atmosphere filled with fear. As the candles burned, her mother muttered protective prayers under her breath, her voice trembling with fear and urgency. The ancient words, passed down through generations, seemed to offer a fragile shield against the encroaching terror. Each prayer was a desperate plea for safety, echoing softly in the dimly lit room. Emily's mind raced, her thoughts a whirlwind of fear and realization. The stories her grandmother had told her, the warnings about the skinned walker, now seemed all too real. She could almost hear her grandmother's voice in her mind, recounting the tales of the malevolent being that could take any form to instill terror. Emily now believed every word, her heart pounding as she imagined the creature outside, its glowing eyes and grotesque form haunting her thoughts. The scene inside the house was one of stark horror, the dim candlelight, the eerie shadows, the whispered prayers, and the palpable fear that hung in the air. Emily and her mother, huddled together, clung to the hope that their makeshift barricade and ancient prayers would be enough to protect them from the nightmare that had come to life outside their door. Determined to save her father and protect her family, Emily decided to confront the skin walker. Armed with her grandmother's talismans and a heart full of courage, she ventured into the forest at dusk. The air was thick with anticipation, and every rustle of leaves seemed to whisper her name. As she delved deeper, the trees grew more twisted, their branches like skeletal hands reaching out to grab her. The fog thickened, and soon she saw the glowing eyes watching her from the shadows. The skin walker emerged, shifting forms, first a wolf, then a bear, and finally, the grotesque demon she had seen before. "Why do you torment us?" Emily demanded, her voice trembling but resolute. The skinwalker laughed, a sound that echoed like the wind through the trees. "Your fear gives me strength," it hissed. "I am the darkness in your hearts, the monster you cannot escape." Emily held up the talismans, their ancient symbols glowing faintly. "You have no power over those who stand together," she declared. The creature lunged at her, but she stood her ground, chanting the protective prayers her grandmother had taught her. The talismans glowed brighter, and the skinwalker recoiled, its form flickering like a dying flame. Emily's heart raced with hope. Perhaps she could destroy it after all. But the skinwalker, sensing her determination, shifted tactics. It transformed into the likeness of her father, his eyes pleading. "Emily, please," it said in her father's voice. "Don't you want to save me? Lower the talismans, and I will be free." Conflicted, Emily hesitated. The skinwalker seized the moment, shifting back into its demonic form. It did not attack, however. Instead, it offered a deal. "Leave the forest, Emily. Abandon your quest, and I will release your father. Refuse, and he will be mine forever." Tears streaming down her face, Emily slowly lowered the talisman, the glowing artifact now dim in her trembling hands. "Promise me you will let him go," she demanded, her voice breaking with desperation and fear. The skinwalker, a grotesque and sinister creature, grinned widely, its malevolent eyes glinting with dark amusement. "You have my word," it hissed, its voice a chilling whisper that sent shivers down Emily's spine. With a dramatic wave of its clawed hand, the air shimmered, and her father appeared on the ground, unconscious but unmistakably alive. Emily's heart leapt with a mix of relief and fear. She rushed to her father's side, her tears flowing freely as she cradled his head and checked for signs of life. His chest rose and fell with shallow breaths, confirming he was indeed alive. Tears of relief mingled with her lingering fear, her sobs quiet but filled with profound emotion. As she struggled to help her father to his feet, the skinwalker began to fade into the dense, shadowy forest. Its form became less distinct, melting into the darkness. Its haunting laughter echoed through the trees, a sinister sound that seemed to come from all directions. Just before disappearing completely, it called out in a chilling, mocking tone, "Remember, Emily, I am always watching." The words lingered in the air long after the creature had vanished, leaving Emily and her father alone in the oppressive stillness of the night. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath, the ancient trees standing as silent witnesses to the terrifying encounter. Emily and her father returned to the village, where the townspeople rejoiced at their safe return. Laughter and cheers filled the air as friends and neighbors gathered around, their faces alight with relief and joy. Yet, amidst the celebration, Emily felt a deep sense of unease. Her victory felt hollow, for she knew the skinwalker still lurked in the shadows, waiting for the next opportunity to spread its terror. Her grandmother, a wise and perceptive woman with eyes that had seen many seasons, sensed the truth. She placed a comforting hand on Emily's shoulder, her touch gentle yet firm. "You were brave, Emily. But this is not over. The skinwalker will return. We must always be vigilant," she said, her voice carrying the weight of experience and concern. From that day on, Emily was haunted by the knowledge that the skinwalker was still out there, watching, waiting. The memories of her encounter with the malevolent being stayed with her, a constant reminder of the darkness that threatened her village. She vowed to be ready, to protect her family and her community from the sinister presence that loomed ever closer. The legend of the skinwalker continued to weave its way through the fabric of village life, its tale of terror passed down through generations. The story became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the unseen dangers that lurk in the world. And Emily, now wiser and stronger, lived her life under the shadow of the curse. She remained ever watchful, her eye scanning the dark corners of the forest, always alert for the eyes that glowed in the night. Despite the passage of time, the fear never truly left her. The village respected her bravery and looked to her for guidance, knowing that she had faced the monster and survived. Emily's life was forever changed, her youthful innocence replaced by a steely determination and an unyielding vigilance. She knew that as long as the Skinwalker existed, the battle was far from over. And so, she prepared, training herself and the villagers, ensuring that they would never be caught off guard again. Emily's story became part of the legend, her courage and resilience an inspiration to all. She was a guardian, a beacon of hope in a world tinged with darkness, always ready to stand against the terror that awaited in the shadows.